The Galactic Assembly Hall fell silent as the human delegation walked through the massive bronze doors. Ambassador Elena Vasquez led her small team across the polished floor, their footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. Around them, thousands of alien representatives watched from their seats. Some leaned forward with curiosity. Others pulled back in fear. A few showed disgust on their strange faces. Elena kept her head high. She had expected this reaction. Humans had only joined the galactic community 3 years ago, and most species still did not know what to make of them. The rumors about Earth had spread fast. A Deathworld, a planet of poison air, crushing gravity, and endless violence. The creatures that evolved there were supposed to be monsters. She took her assigned seat in the far corner of the hall, where the minor species were placed. Her team of 5 settled around her. They were diplomats, scientists, and one military advisor named Colonel Marcus Chen. He sat with perfect stillness, his dark eyes scanning the room. The current speaker was a tall being covered in blue scales. He belonged to the Cressics, one of the founding species of the Galactic Union. His voice boomed through translator devices that everyone wore. "We must increase our tribute to the hegemony by 15%, the Cressics said. "The alternative is unthinkable." Elena frowned. She had been studying galactic politics since humanity made first contact. The hegemony was an empire that controlled nearly half the galaxy. They demanded tribute from all species in the Union. Protection money, they called it. Pay us or face our fleets. A small creature with 4 arms stood up from another section. Its species was called the Telori. They looked like Earth rabbits but with extra limbs and large sad eyes. "Our worlds cannot pay more," the Telori representative said. His voice shook. "We already give 40% of our resources. Our children go hungry. Our hospitals close. Please, we cannot survive another increase." The Cressics waved a clawed hand. "We all make sacrifices. The hegemony keeps order. Without them, chaos would consume us all." Elena leaned toward Colonel Chen. "How long has this been going on?" "Centuries," he whispered back. "The hegemony conquers species. Those who fight are destroyed. Those who surrender pay tribute forever. The Union was created to negotiate better terms, but they have no power to resist." "That's not a union," Elena said. "That's a collection of victims." The debate continued for hours. Species after species complained about the tribute increases. Some begged for mercy. Others proposed cutting their own military forces to save money. Not one of them suggested fighting back. Finally, the session ended. The delegates began filing out through various exits. Elena stood and stretched her legs. Sitting still for so long made her muscles ache. Human bodies were built for movement. A figure approached her delegation. It was the Telori who had spoken earlier. Up close, he barely reached Elena's waist. His fur was gray and thin, and his 4 hands trembled slightly. "Ambassador Vasquez," he said, "I am Delegate Kiri of the Telori Collective. May I speak with you privately?" Elena nodded. They moved to a quiet alcove while her team waited nearby. "I have watched your species since you arrived," Kiri said. "You are different from the others." "Different how?" "You do not fear. I see it in how you walk, how you sit, how you look at the Cressics when they speak. You do not lower your eyes. You do not hunch your shoulders. Even the Vraxian warriors show submission when the hegemony is mentioned, but not humans." Elena considered her words carefully. "We are new here. Maybe we just do not understand the danger yet." Kiri shook his head. "No, I have read the reports about your world, the predators, the diseases, the constant natural disasters. Your kind evolved in a place that would kill most species in hours. You are not naive. You are simply not afraid." "What do you want from us, Delegate Kiri?" The small alien looked around to make sure no one was listening. "There are others like me. Representatives who are tired of watching their people suffer. We have been waiting for someone to stand with us. Someone who can fight and win. You want us to lead a rebellion. I want you to give us hope." Elena studied his face. His large eyes held pain but also a spark of something stronger, desperation mixed with courage. "The hegemony has controlled this galaxy for 1,000 years, Elena said. "They have fleets that dwarf anything we could build. Why do you think humans could change anything?" Kiri reached into a pouch and pulled out a small data chip. "Because of this, Intelligence gathered over decades, stolen communications, weak points in their empire. We have everything needed to plan a resistance. What we lack is someone willing to use it. Alina took the chip. It felt impossibly light in her hand. I will share this with my government, she said, but I cannot promise anything. That is more than anyone else has offered in generations. Kiri bowed deeply. Thank you, Ambassador. My people will remember this moment. He walked away, disappearing into the crowd of aliens leaving the hall. Colonel Chen appeared at Alina's side. What was that about? I think we just got invited to start a war. Chen's expression did not change. About time, someone asked. The journey back to the human embassy took 20 minutes by shuttle. Their building was small compared to the grand structures of the older species, but it was efficient and practical, just like humans preferred. Alina gathered her senior staff in the secure briefing room. Holographic displays covered the walls, showing maps of known space. The hegemony territory was marked in red. It covered almost half the galaxy. The situation is worse than we thought, Alina began. She inserted Kiri's data chip into the reader. Information flooded the screens. Fleet positions, trade routes, communication codes, names of hegemony officers known for corruption or brutality. This is incredible, said Dr. Sarah Park, their intelligence analyst. This data is accurate, recent too. Someone has been very busy. Decades of work from multiple species, Alina said, all of them too scared to act on it. Until now, Chen added. Alina looked at her team. They had all volunteered for this mission, knowing it might be dangerous. First contact with alien life had happened peacefully, but everyone understood the galaxy was not a safe place. I need to contact Earth, she said. The president needs to see this. If we do nothing, the hegemony will eventually reach us. They expand constantly. In a few centuries, maybe less, they will demand tribute from humanity too. Or we fight now, while they are not expecting it, Chen said. That is exactly what I am thinking. She opened a secure channel to Earth. The message would take hours to arrive, even through the fastest quantum communication network, but the decision it contained would change history. Humanity was about to choose between slavery and war. 2 weeks later, the response came back. It was simple and clear. We stand ready, proceed. Alina read the message 3 times. She felt the weight of it pressing down on her shoulders. Billions of humans on Earth and in their new colonies were counting on her to make the right choices. And now, possibly, billions of aliens were counting on her too. She called a meeting with Delegate Kiri and asked him to bring others who shared his views. They met in a warehouse in the lower districts of the station, far from the censors and spies of the hegemony. 12 aliens stood before her. Telori, Vraxians, Kressik's rebels, even a member of a species she did not recognize, something that looked like a walking tree. Thank you all for coming, Alina said. I have spoken with my government. Earth is willing to fight, but we cannot do this alone. We need allies. We need resources. We need everyone to believe that winning is possible. The walking tree rustled its branches. The hegemony has never been defeated, not once in 1,000 years. Then they are overdue for a loss. The aliens exchanged glances. Some looked hopeful, others looked terrified, but all of them stayed. The revolution had begun. The first phase of their plan was simple. They needed to build trust. The different species had spent centuries competing with each other for the hegemony's favor. Now they had to learn to work together. Alina organized secret meetings across the station. Small groups at first. A Telori merchant meeting with a Vraxian soldier. A Kressik scientist sharing data with a human engineer. Slowly, connections formed. Colonel Chen trained the first resistance fighters. He started with volunteers from species that had some experience with violence. The Vraxians were natural warriors, standing 3 meters tall with armored skin, but they had forgotten how to fight in groups. The hegemony had banned large military forces centuries ago. Your strength means nothing if you charge alone, Chen told a group of Vraxian recruits. One warrior against a fleet is just a target, but an army working together can defeat anything. He showed them human military history, videos of ancient battles, the phalanx, the legion, combined arms tactics. The Vraxians watched with growing excitement. Your kind fought each other like this, one asked. We fought each other constantly, Chen admitted. Humanity was never united until we found out we were not alone in the universe. Now we have a common enemy. Meanwhile, Alina worked on the political side. She needed to convince more species to join. Many were too afraid to openly resist, but they could provide support in other ways. The Meliks, a species of small winged beings, controlled most of the communication networks. Their representative was a nervous creature named Zell who kept glancing at the door during their meeting. You want us to spy on the hegemony, Zell said. If they catch us, they will destroy our homeworld. If you do nothing, they will keep taking from you until there is nothing left, Alina replied. How much tribute did your people pay last year? Zell's wings drooped. 60% of our production. And next year it will be more, and the year after. The hegemony does not stop. They cannot stop. Their entire economy depends on taking from others. What would you have us do? Alina smiled gently. Just listen, copy messages, pass them along to us. Small things that will not be noticed. You are already everywhere in their networks. You just need to pay attention. Zell hesitated for a long moment. Then she nodded her tiny head. I will bring this to my council. No promises. That is all I ask. 3 months passed. The resistance grew quietly. Weapons were hidden. Plans were made. And Alina waited for the right moment to strike. That moment came when the hegemony announced a new policy. They would begin conscripting soldiers from tribute species. Forced service in the hegemony's fleets. Young members of every species would be taken from their families and trained to fight against their own kind. The announcement caused an uproar. Even species that had accepted their fate suddenly found themselves angry. Taking resources was one thing, taking their children was another. Alina called an emergency meeting of the resistance leadership. The warehouse was packed with aliens from 30 different species. This is our opportunity, she said. The hegemony has overreached. Species that would never have joined us are now questioning everything. But what can we do? Asked the Talori elder. They have warned that any world refusing conscription will be destroyed. They cannot destroy everyone, Chen said. He activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Look at their fleet positions. They are spread thin. Most of their ships are in the core worlds, protecting the hegemony leadership. The outer regions have only small patrol forces. We start there, Alina continued. Small victories. Show everyone that the hegemony can be beaten. Each win will bring more species to our side. You make it sound easy, said a Vraxian commander named Vrix. The hegemony has crushed rebellions before. Not like this one. Alina looked around the room, meeting every pair of eyes. Those rebellions were single species fighting alone. We are united. Humans and Talori and Vraxians and Meliks and dozens of others. They have never faced an alliance like this. The meeting lasted for hours. Plans were debated. Resources were counted. Finally, they agreed on their first target, a supply station in the outer reach. It was lightly defended and vital to hegemony operations in the region. The attack would happen in 1 month. Alina spent the next weeks barely sleeping. There were 1,000 details to manage. Ships needed to be modified. Crews needed to be trained. Communication channels needed to be secured. Colonel Chen led the military preparations. He had assembled a fleet of 40 ships from 12 different species. It was tiny compared to the hegemony's forces, but it was all they had. Remember, he told his captains before they departed, we are not trying to conquer the station. We hit fast, destroy their supplies, and leave before reinforcements arrive. This is a raid, not a siege. The human cruiser Spirit of Freedom led the fleet. Alina stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak past as they entered faster than light travel. Around her, the crew worked at their stations with focused intensity. 6 hours later, they dropped out of hyperspace near the supply station. It was a massive structure, kilometers across, surrounded by small defensive platforms. Enemy forces are minimal, reported the sensor officer. 3 patrol ships, standard defenses. All units advance, Chen ordered. The battle lasted 18 minutes. The resistance fleet swarmed the station, overwhelming its defenses with sheer numbers. Human ships provided heavy fire while Vraxian boarding parties cut through the hull. Melek's communications specialists jammed enemy signals. When it was over, the station burned against the darkness of space. 2 resistance ships had been lost, but the mission was a complete success. Alina watched the flames reflected in the viewscreen. She felt no joy. Those fires meant war had truly begun. There would be no going back now. "Message from the Melek's listening posts," said the communications officer. "The hegemony is mobilizing. They know it was us." "Good," Alina said quietly. "Let them come. Let them see what a united galaxy can do." The fleet turned and jumped back to safety. Behind them, the remains of the station tumbled through the void. Word of the victory spread fast. Within days, 12 more species sent secret messages asking to join the resistance. The hegemony's response was fierce. They destroyed 2 colonies that they suspected of supporting the attack, but instead of creating fear, the destruction created rage. More species joined. The revolution was growing. The hegemony struck back harder than Alina had expected. Their supreme commander, a being called High Marshal Keth, gathered a massive fleet and began burning worlds. 3 planets in the outer regions were reduced to ash in the first week. Alina stood in the Resistance Command Center, watching the reports come in. Each light that went dark on the holographic map represented millions of lives. "They are trying to scare everyone into submission," she said. "It is working for some," Delegate Kiri replied. He looked older than when they first met. The stress of leadership was wearing on him. 4 species have withdrawn from our alliance. They are too afraid to continue." "And how many have joined because of the attacks?" Kiri checked his data pad. 7 new ones. "Then we are still growing." Alina turned to Colonel Chen. "We need to change tactics. Hit and run is not enough anymore. We need a real victory, something that shows the hegemony is not invincible." Chen nodded slowly. "I have been studying the intelligence. There is a shipyard in the Calvex system. It builds their largest warships. If we destroy it, we cripple their ability to replace losses." "How heavily defended?" "Extremely. 30 capital ships, hundreds of fighters, orbital defense platforms. It would be suicide to attack with our current forces." Alina thought for a moment. "Then we need more forces. Who else might help us?" The question hung in the air. Then a new voice spoke from the corner of the room. It belonged to Commander Vrix, the Vraxian who had joined them months ago. "The Centauri," Vrix said. "They have stayed neutral because they fear the hegemony, but they also hate them. Long ago the hegemony took their outer colonies. The Centauri have never forgotten." "Would they fight?" "If they believed we could win, yes. They have a powerful fleet, hidden in nebulas near their core worlds. They have been building it in secret for generations." Alina made her decision. "Then I need to meet with them, arrange a summit." The meeting took place on a dead moon far from any trade routes. Alina traveled with a small team, including Chen and Kiri. The Centauri were waiting for them. They were strange beings, tall and thin with translucent skin that showed their internal organs pulsing beneath. Their leader was called the Voice, a title rather than a name. "You ask for our help against the hegemony," the Voice said. Their words came through the translator as cold and flat. "Many have asked before. All have failed." "None of them were united like we are," Alina replied. "We have 32 species working together, sharing resources, sharing intelligence, sharing risk. Numbers mean nothing against the hegemony's power." "Then look at what we have accomplished." Alina activated a display showing their victories: the supply station, patrol ships ambushed, trade routes disrupted. "We have been fighting for 6 months. We are still here." The Voice studied the data for a long time. Their internal organs shifted color from blue to green to purple. "You are humans," the Voice finally said. "From the Deathworld, we have heard stories. Some say you are monsters, others say you are saviors. What do you say?" Alina stepped forward. "We say we are tired of watching innocent people suffer. We say that 1,000 years of tyranny is enough. We say that every species deserves freedom. And we say that we will not stop fighting until the hegemony falls. Even if it means your own destruction. Especially then, humans have a saying, better to die on your feet than live on your knees." The Voice made a sound that might have been a laugh. Your people are strange. You evolved in a place of constant death, yet you speak of life. You come from violence, yet you offer peace. Maybe that is exactly why we fight. We know how precious peace is because we spent so long without it. Another long silence. Then the voice gestured with one thin hand. The Centauri will join your alliance, our fleet will come, but we expect you to honor your words. When the hegemony falls, all species must be free, not just some, all. Alina bowed her head. You have my promise. They returned to the resistance base with good news. The Centauri fleet added 200 ships to their forces. Suddenly, the attack on the Calvex shipyard seemed possible. But planning took time. Supplies had to be gathered. Ships had to be positioned. Crews had to be trained to work together. 2 more months passed while they prepared. During this time, the hegemony continued their attacks. More worlds burned. More refugees fled into resistance territory. The command center became crowded with displaced families from a dozen species. Alina walked among them whenever she could. She learned their names, heard their stories, held their hands when they cried. Each interaction reminded her why they were fighting. A young Telori child approached her one day. She was missing one arm, lost in a hegemony bombing. Are you the human? The child asked. I am. My mother says you will make the bad ones go away. Alina knelt down to meet the child's eyes. We are trying, but it will take time. I can wait. The child touched Alina's face with her remaining hands. You feel warm, like our homeworld used to be before the fires. Alina felt tears form in her eyes. She pulled the child into a gentle hug. I promise we will make things better for you, for everyone. That night, she called a meeting of the resistance commanders. When everyone was assembled, she stood before the holographic map of the galaxy. The Calvex attack is ready, she said, but I want to be clear about something. We are not just fighting to win battles. We are fighting to build something new. A galaxy where no one burns worlds to enforce obedience, where no one takes children from their families, where every species has a voice. She looked at the faces around her. Humans, Telori, Vraxians, Centauri, Melix, Cressix, beings so different they should have been enemies, yet here they stood together. When we win this war, and we will win, we must not become what we fought against. No matter how much power we gain, no matter how tempting it becomes, we must stay true to our principles. Commander Vrix stood at attention. The Vraxians understand. We were warriors once and we became slaves. We will not make others into slaves. Kiri nodded. The Telori only want peace. We will never demand tribute from anyone. One by one, the other species voiced their agreement. A new contract was forming, an alliance based on freedom rather than fear. Then let us finish what we started, Alina said. Tomorrow, we strike at the heart of the hegemony's power. Tomorrow, we show them that their empire is dying. The fleet assembled in the darkness between stars. 400 ships from 40 species. It was the largest allied force in galactic history. Alina stood on the bridge of the Spirit of Freedom, now serving as the flagship. Around her, holographic displays showed the positions of every vessel. All ships report ready, Chen announced. Centauri fleet is in position. Vraxian assault teams are standing by. Telori medical ships are prepared for casualties. And our special surprise. Chen allowed himself a small smile, loaded and waiting. The special surprise had been Alina's idea. The hegemony's defenses relied on energy shields that could stop almost any weapon, but the shields had a weakness. They were designed to repel fast-moving projectiles and energy beams. Slow-moving objects passed through easily. Human engineers had modified several asteroids with guidance systems and fusion bombs. They would drift toward the shipyard at low speed, passing through the shields before detonating. Begin the approach, Alina ordered. The fleet moved forward, staying just outside detection range. Ahead, the Calvex system glowed with the light of industrial fires. Hundreds of warships under construction hung in orbital frames around the massive shipyard. Deploy the asteroids. 12 rocks began their slow journey toward the target. They would take hours to arrive, but no one would notice them among the natural debris of the system. Meanwhile, the resistance fleet spread out, preparing to attack from multiple directions. Enemy fleet is responding, reported the sensor officer. They see us now. Good, Alina said. Let them focus on us. Chen, take command of the main fleet. Draw their defenders away from the shipyard. Chen nodded and began issuing orders. The Allied ships accelerated toward the hegemony forces, opening fire at long range. The battle was chaos. Energy beams crossed the void. Explosions bloomed in silence. Ships died on both sides. Alina watched the timer counting down until the asteroids reached their target. 30 minutes, 20, 10. Main fleet is taking heavy losses, Chen reported, but we're holding. Asteroids approaching shield perimeter now. Alina held her breath. If the hegemony noticed the rocks, everything would fail. They didn't notice. The asteroids passed through the shields one by one. Then, in perfect sequence, they detonated. The shipyard disappeared in a cascade of nuclear fire. Hundreds of partially built warships were vaporized instantly. The explosion was so large it disrupted the battle nearby, flinging smaller ships away like toys. Target destroyed, announced the sensor officer, her voice filled with awe. Cheers erupted across the Allied fleet, but Alina raised her hand for silence. We are not done. Press the attack. Destroy as many of their ships as possible while they are confused. The resistance forces surged forward. The hegemony defenders, shocked by the destruction of the shipyard, fell into disarray. Their formation crumbled. By the time reinforcements arrived, the Allied fleet had already fled. They left behind the burning wreckage of the greatest shipyard in the galaxy, along with 50 destroyed hegemony warships. The resistance had lost 80 ships, thousands of lives. Alina knew every single one of them had died for this moment. Back at their base, celebrations were tempered by grief. Memorial services lasted for days, but underneath the sorrow, a new feeling spread through the Alliance. Hope. They had proven the hegemony could bleed. High Marshal Keth stood before the Hegemony Council of Lords, his scaled face twisted with fury. The holographic display behind him showed the ruins of the Calvex shipyard, still smoldering weeks after the attack. This is unacceptable, growled one of the lords, a massive creature with 6 eyes. The tribute species were supposed to be broken, obedient. How did they organize something like this? The humans, Keth said. They are the cause. Before their arrival, the lesser species knew their place. Now they believe they can fight. Then destroy the humans, burn their worlds, end this rebellion before it spreads further. Keth shook his head. It has already spread. 47 species now openly support the resistance. Another 100 are providing secret support. If we attack Earth directly, we may unite even more against us. So what do you propose? The High Marshal activated a new display. It showed a small moon in the outer regions. We have captured one of their forward bases. Prisoners have been taken. Among them are several human leaders. Good, make examples of them. I intend to do more than that. We will break them publicly. Show the galaxy that humans are just flesh and bone like anyone else. When the other species see their heroes die begging for mercy, the rebellion will collapse. The Council of Lords agreed to the plan. They did not know that one of their communications officers was a Melek spy. Word reached Alina within hours. She assembled her commanders immediately. The captured base had held 30 resistance fighters, including Commander Vrix and 2 human officers. We cannot leave them, said Kiri. If the hegemony executes them publicly, it will damage morale across the Alliance. I agree, Alina said, but rescue is almost impossible. The prisoners have been taken to Corinth, the hegemony's capital world, the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. Chen studied the intelligence reports. Not impossible, difficult yes, but we have assets in place. Melek's agents in their communication centers, Kressik's rebels in their bureaucracy, and the Centauri have a saying, the deepest fortress has the smallest guards because no one believes it can be attacked. What are you suggesting? A special operation, small team, infiltration rather than assault. Get in, find the prisoners, get out before anyone knows we were there. Alina considered the idea. It was insane, suicidal even, but so had been every other victory they'd achieved. Who would lead this mission? Chen met her eyes. I will. The infiltration team consisted of 12 volunteers, 4 humans, including Chen, 3 Vraxians who could fight in close quarters, 2 Meliks who knew the palace communication systems, and 3 Telari who were small enough to fit through ventilation shafts. They traveled to Corinth on a captured hegemony transport ship, using forged documents and stolen codes. The journey took 5 days. Every moment was tense. Chen sat in the cramped cargo hold, reviewing the mission plan for the 100th time. Next to him, a young human soldier named Private Anna Wang checked her weapons. "Sir, do you think we'll make it out?" Chen paused. "I think we have a chance. That's more than most people would give us. My mother said humans shouldn't be fighting wars for aliens. She said we should stay on Earth and let the galaxy sort itself out. What do you think?" Wang looked at the others in the hold, the Vraxian warrior meditating in the corner, the Telori navigator curled up asleep, the Melik's engineer adjusting her implants. "I think they're people too. Different shapes, different worlds, but still people, and nobody deserves to be a slave." Chen nodded. "That's why we fight." The transport landed at a commercial port on Corinth. Security was tight, but the Meliks had done their work well. The forged documents passed inspection. The team split into smaller groups and made their way toward the detention facility. It was located beneath the palace of the High Marshal himself. Getting inside required them to pose as maintenance workers, servants, and in one case, a food delivery. Chen led the main assault group through service tunnels. They moved in silence, taking down guards with non-lethal weapons when necessary. Every minute brought them closer to discovery. Finally, they reached the detention level. The prisoners were held in individual cells along a long corridor. Guards stood at both ends. "On my signal," Chen whispered. "Quiet takedowns, no alarms." The Vraxians moved first. Their massive bodies hit the guards like trucks, clamping hands over mouths before they could cry out. In seconds, both groups were unconscious. Chen approached the first cell. Through the small window, he saw Commander Vrix chained to the wall. The Vraxian's armor was cracked and bloody, but his eyes were alert. "Chen," Vrix whispered, "you came. We don't leave people behind." The locks required hegemony biometric access. Fortunately, one of the unconscious guards provided that. The cells opened one by one. 30 prisoners, weak but alive. Among them were the 2 captured human officers, Lieutenant Park and Captain Morrison. "Can you walk?" Chen asked them. "We can run if we have to," Morrison replied. The escape route led through the palace waste system, not dignified but secure. They crawled through narrow pipes designed to handle the massive amounts of garbage a palace produced. Halfway through, alarms began sounding above them. "They found the guards," Chen said. "Move faster." The team emerged in a service building outside the palace walls. A stolen hover vehicle waited, engine running. The Telori had done their job perfectly. They drove through the capital city, blending into traffic. Behind them, the palace was lit up with searchlights, but no one thought to check the dirty maintenance truck heading toward the port. Getting off the planet was the hardest part. Security at all exits had been tripled. Their original transport was certainly compromised. But the Meliks had a backup plan. A cargo hauler owned by a secret sympathizer was scheduled to depart in 2 hours. It had room for extra passengers if they didn't mind hiding in crates of industrial chemicals. They minded, but they did it anyway. The hauler lifted off. Security checks were thorough, but the chemicals masked their life signs. 12 hours later, they jumped to hyperspace. The mission was a success. All 30 prisoners rescued, 0 casualties on the extraction team. When they returned to the resistance base, they were greeted as heroes. Alina embraced Chen, something she had never done before. "You did the impossible," she said. "We did what was necessary." Chen looked at the rescued prisoners being treated by medical teams. "And it's not over. The hegemony will retaliate. They have to, or they look weak." Alina knew he was right, but for one moment she allowed herself to feel joy. They had won again. The hegemony's response came 3 weeks later. High Marshal Keth himself led a fleet of 500 ships toward the resistance headquarters. It was the largest military force assembled in decades. They're coming to destroy us completely, Kiri said, his voice trembling. Alina studied the tactical display. Their defenses were strong but not strong enough. The hegemony had overwhelming force. Evacuate non-combatants, she ordered. Begin moving civilians to the emergency shelters. If we have to abandon this base, we will not lose our people. And the fighters? Alina looked at the officers around her. Human, Vraxian, Centauri, Telori, all watching, waiting for her answer. We stay, we fight. We make them pay for every meter they take. The evacuation began immediately. Ships carried families and children to hidden locations throughout the sector. The remaining resistance forces prepared for a siege. But Alina was working on something else, something desperate. Get me a channel to the hegemony flagship, she said. I want to talk to High Marshal Keth directly. The communications officer hesitated. Ma'am, that would reveal our encryption methods. Do it anyway. The channel opened. After a few minutes, Keth's face appeared on screen. He looked surprised to see a human. Ambassador Vasquez, he said, so you are the one who has caused so much trouble. High Marshal, I have a proposal. There is nothing to discuss. Your rebellion ends today. Hear me out. You are about to destroy this base. Maybe you will succeed, but at what cost? Our forces will fight to the last breath. How many of your ships will you lose? How many soldiers? Keth's eyes narrowed. Acceptable losses. And what happens tomorrow? We have cells on 100 worlds. You destroy us here, and the rebellion continues somewhere else. You will spend the rest of your life chasing shadows. What is your proposal? Alina took a deep breath. This was the gamble. Single combat, you and me. If you win, the resistance surrenders. If I win, you withdraw and begin negotiations for a new galactic order. The High Marshal stared at her. Then he laughed. You, a fragile human, against me. Are you afraid? The laughter stopped. Keth's scales darkened with anger. I accept. 1 hour, neutral ground between our fleets, and when you die, your people will watch. The channel closed. Chen grabbed Alina's arm. Are you insane? He's twice your size. He's been a warrior for centuries. I know what I'm doing, Alina said calmly. Prepare a shuttle and trust me. 1 hour later, Alina stood on an asteroid between the two fleets. She wore light armor and carried a simple blade. Across from her, Keth was a mountain of scales and muscle, holding a weapon designed to crush bones. Any last words, human? Alina settled into a fighting stance. Let's finish this. Keth charged. The ground shook with his footsteps. His weapon swung in a deadly arc. Alina didn't try to block. She dove to the side, rolling across the rocky ground. As Keth turned to face her, she was already moving, circling around him. You think you can outrun me forever? Keth laughed. I don't have to run forever. Alina dodged another swing, just long enough. The fight continued for several minutes. Keth was powerful but slow. Alina was faster, constantly moving, never giving him a clean shot. She struck when she could, her blade finding gaps in his armor. Small wounds, nothing fatal, but they added up. Hold still and die with dignity, Keth growled. Humans don't die with dignity. We die screaming and clawing and fighting. We evolved that way. Alina ducked under a horizontal sweep. And that's why we're still here. She thrust her blade upward, finding the soft tissue under his chin. It wasn't a deep wound, but it hurt. Keth roared in pain and stumbled backward. Alina didn't hesitate. She pressed her advantage, striking again and again. Each blow was precise. Each wound weakened him further. Keth fell to his knees. His weapon dropped from numb fingers. Blood the color of night dripped onto the asteroid's surface. Yield, Alina said. Never. Then die knowing your empire ends today. She raised her blade. The watching fleets held their breath. Wait, Keth's voice was weak. I yield. Alina lowered her weapon. She stood over the defeated High Marshal, breathing hard but victorious. The resistance fleet erupted in cheers. Across the void, the hegemony ships began to power down their weapons. This is Ambassador Alina Vasquez, she broadcast on all frequencies. The High Marshal has yielded. The resistance has won. Representatives of all species are invited to discuss terms for a new galactic government, one built on freedom, equality, and mutual respect. Silence. Then slowly responses began coming in, ships from both sides agreeing to stand down, messages from worlds across the galaxy pledging support. Alina turned back to Keth. He looked up at her with something that might have been respect. "You are not what I expected," he said. "Neither was the galaxy." Alina extended her hand. "There is a place for your people in what comes next, if you choose to join rather than fight." Keth hesitated, then slowly he took her hand. The revolution was over. The building of a new civilization had begun. The first meeting of the Free Galactic Congress took place 6 months after the battle. Representatives from over 200 species gathered in a space station specifically built for the occasion. It orbited a neutral star, chosen because it belonged to no one. Alina Vasquez stood at the central podium. Around her, thousands of aliens waited in tiered seating that rose toward the ceiling. Every shape and color imaginable filled the chamber. Beings of light, creatures of stone, species that communicated through scent or touch or patterns of color. "We are here," Alina began, "because we chose to be. Not because someone forced us. Not because we feared punishment. We are here because we believe in something greater than ourselves." She paused, letting the translator devices catch up. Some species processed language slowly. "The old ways told us that the strong rule and the weak serve. That might makes right. That peace can only come through fear. We rejected those ways. We proved them wrong." The chamber was silent. Every eye, every sensor, every perception was focused on her. "Today, we begin building something new. A galaxy where every species has a voice, where disputes are settled through discussion, not destruction, where children grow up dreaming of exploration, not dreading conquest." A Telluri delegate stood. It was Kiri, now representing his entire species. "How do we ensure this new order lasts? How do we prevent another hegemony from rising?" "By staying united, by remembering what we fought for, and by never allowing any single species to hold too much power." Alina gestured to the Constitution displayed on screens around the chamber. "This document guarantees equal representation, no vetoes for larger species, no weighted votes based on military strength. Every voice counts the same." "Even the former hegemony members?" asked a Centauri delegate. "Especially them. We cannot build peace by excluding anyone. The hegemony's people are not our enemies. Their leaders made choices that harmed everyone, including their own citizens. Those leaders will face justice, but ordinary people deserve a chance to join this new community." The debate lasted for hours. Questions were raised about trade, defense, justice, resource sharing. Each issue was discussed openly. Disagreements were common, but always the delegates found compromises. By the end of the day, the Congress had agreed on the basic structure of the new government. A rotating council of representatives from every sector, a shared defense force with strict limits on its use, economic agreements that prohibited exploitation. Alina watched from her seat as the final vote was taken. 207 species in favor, none opposed, 12 abstaining. The Free Galactic Congress was born. Celebrations erupted across the galaxy. On worlds that had suffered under the hegemony for centuries, people danced in the streets. On Earth, humanity watched the broadcasts with a mixture of pride and wonder. Their species had helped change everything. Alina did not celebrate. She sat alone in her quarters on the station, looking out at the stars. A knock came at her door. It was Colonel Chen, now General Chen, commander of the new Galactic Defense Force. "You should be at the party," he said. "Someone needs to think about tomorrow." Chen sat down across from her. "What's bothering you?" "The same thing that always bothers me. What if we fail? What if all of this falls apart?" "Then we rebuild. That's what we do. That's what humans have always done." Alina smiled sadly. "We're not just humans anymore. We're part of something bigger now, and that scares me sometimes." "It should," Chen leaned forward. "But fear isn't a reason to stop. It's a reason to be careful, and you are the most careful person I know." They sat in silence for a while, watching stars drift past the window. "The Hegemony Council members were sentenced today," Chen said eventually. "Exiled to uninhabited worlds. They'll live out their lives alone, unable to harm anyone." "And High Marshal Keth?" He requested permission to join the defense force. Says he wants to protect the galaxy he once tried to conquer. Elena raised an eyebrow. What did the tribunal say? They left the decision to you. She considered for a long moment. Keth had been their greatest enemy. He had ordered the deaths of millions, but he had also surrendered when he could have continued fighting. He had followed through on the treaty terms without resistance. Give him a chance, Elena finally said. Under supervision. If he proves himself, he rises in rank like anyone else. If he fails, he faces the same consequences as anyone else. Chen nodded. You really believe in second chances, don't you? I believe in change. People can change. Species can change. Galaxies can change. That's the whole point of what we're doing. The next morning, Elena addressed the Congress again. This time she spoke about the future. We have ended one war, but peace is harder than war. It requires constant effort. It demands that we set aside old grudges and work together. It means trusting people who were once our enemies. She looked at the former hegemony representatives, seated among the others now. Some still wore expressions of shame. Others looked hopeful. I do not ask you to forget what happened. The wounds are too deep for that. But I ask you to move forward, to build something our children can be proud of, to create a galaxy where no one suffers what we suffered. A young Crescix delegate stood. How do we begin? With small steps, trade agreements that benefit everyone fairly, educational exchanges so species can learn about each other, joint projects that give us common goals. Elena smiled. And a lot of patience. The Congress spent the next year implementing these plans. Trade routes opened between former enemies. Students traveled to worlds their parents had never imagined visiting. Scientists from different species worked together on problems that had seemed unsolvable. Elena served as the first rotating chair of the council, using her position to mediate disputes and encourage cooperation. When her term ended, she passed the role to a Telluri representative, then to a Vraxian, then to a member of a species humanity had never encountered before joining the galaxy. General Chen continued building the defense force into a truly integrated military. Humans served alongside Vraxians, Centauri, and dozens of other species. They trained together, fought together, and eventually stopped seeing each other as aliens at all. Kiri became one of the Congress's most respected members. He never forgot where he came from, often invoking the struggles of small species when larger ones pushed for advantages. And High Marshal Keth, to everyone's surprise, became an advocate for peace. He traveled to worlds that had suffered under his command, personally apologizing to survivors. Some refused to forgive him. Others, seeing his genuine remorse, found ways to accept his presence. You confuse me, human, Keth said to Elena one day. I was your enemy. I tried to destroy everything you built, yet you gave me a chance to become something better. We all deserve chances to become better, Elena replied. That's the difference between what we're building and what you had before. The hegemony punished failure and rewarded cruelty. We punish cruelty and reward growth. A strange philosophy for Deathworld creatures. Elena laughed. Maybe that's exactly why we believe it. On Earth, everything is trying to kill you. Survival requires cooperation. You can't fight the weather alone. You can't grow crops alone. You can't build shelter alone. Humanity learned that helping each other is the only way to survive. And now you teach the galaxy this lesson. Now we learn together. 10 years passed. The Free Galactic Congress grew stronger. Trade flourished. Cultural exchange became normal. Species that had never known each other's names became close allies. There were problems, of course. Disagreements that threatened to split the coalition. Criminal organizations that tried to exploit the new order. Extremists from both the former hegemony and the resistance who refused to accept peace. But each crisis was met with cooperation. Each threat was faced together. Elena eventually retired from public life. She was getting older, and the endless meetings had worn her down. She returned to Earth, to a small house by the ocean where she had grown up. One day she received a visitor. It was a young human woman born after the war. Ambassador Vasquez, I'm sorry to bother you. My name is Maya Chen, General Chen's granddaughter. Elena smiled. Marcus's granddaughter. He told me about you. He said you were interested in xenolinguistics. Yes, ma'am. I'm studying at the Galactic Academy on Corinth. The former hegemony capital. Things really have changed. Maya sat down across from her, nervously clutching a data pad. I'm writing a history of the revolution for my thesis. I've spoken to survivors from every species involved, but I wanted to hear your perspective, how it really happened. Alina looked out at the ocean. Waves crashed against rocks, just as they had for millions of years. It started with a small alien who was brave enough to ask for help, she said, and it ended with the whole galaxy learning to ask for help together. But you led it, you fought the High Marshal, you created the Congress. I was just one person, one human among billions. What made the difference was all of us together, every species, every soldier, every diplomat, every ordinary person who refused to give up. Maya recorded every word. When she finally left, Alina remained on her porch, watching the sunset. She thought about all the lives lost, all the sacrifices made, all the moments when everything could have gone wrong. And she thought about all the lives saved, all the children now growing up free, all the possibilities opening across the galaxy. Humanity had come from a death world, a place of poison and predators, yet they had become something more, not conquerors like the hegemony, not victims like the tribute species. Partners, friends, teachers and students of the same lessons. A ship passed overhead, heading for the stars. It carried students from 12 different species, traveling together to explore an uncharted sector. Alina smiled and closed her eyes. The galaxy was free, and humanity had helped make it possible.